Good afternoon. This is Jorge Gustoso speaking to you. In the upcoming minutes, we will have the honor to speak with the President of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro. This country, who just a couple of hours ago was a victim of an invasion of mercenaries. Some were brought down, others have been captured, like 2 Americans that have later confessed. These are some of the confessions.
What other tasks involve taking control of the airport?
Securing the sector, establishing outer security, communicating with the tower, bringing in planes, one of which includes one to put Maduro on and take him back to the United States.
Who commands Jordan?
President Donald Trump.
Who gave you the weapons and the tactical uniforms?
Jordan through Silver Corps.
Precisely, the mercenary also gave details of his plans. Let's listen.
How many irregular groups do you was training in Rio Hacha?
There was 3 small groups.
How many men in that groups?
In total, it was 50 to 60, so around 20 people per group.
Tell me about the instructions that Jordan Guaido gave to you, and which was the targets.
The only instructions that I received from Jordan was to ensure that we took control of an airport for safe passage for Maduro and receiving of airplanes.
And the other mercenary spoke of what were the objectives of this mission.
What were the target of the operation?
The target they got was Jasim, Sabine, Miraflores, and the airport's Tarjeta.
How did you get the data to draw the plans?
Based on information from the group.
What will be your objective at La Carlota Airways?
At La Carlota Airways would be to secure the airstrip.
This American citizen gave more details of what he expected the mission to be.
What were the objectives of the mission?
I believe it was to obtain specific targets and to, I think, get Maduro.
And now we have live from the Miraflores Palace in Caracas, Mr. President of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro. Mr. President, thank you for being with us. Well, Jorge, greetings. Well, I am here. I see you there in Washington. How is the climate in Washington? Well, if we're speaking of the pandemic, we can say that everything's very confusing because we have the world records of cases and of deaths. So yes, it's very alarming. Well, we have to be very careful. I tell the people of the United States, you have to take lots of care of yourself. If there is a new wave, if you haven't been able to overcome the first one, it could be catastrophic. and for the United States and for the world. That is what we fear. Let's hope that the majority of people and the authorities are careful. Well, Jorge, tell me, how can I help you? Well, Mr. President, on Monday, when asked by the journalist, President Trump was asked about this failed attempt to invade Venezuela on behalf of these mercenaries. And I read what he said. I just received information. It has nothing to do with our government. We will discover them. We just heard it, but whatever it is, I will let you know. But it has nothing to do with our government. Do you believe President Trump? Well, that's an unreal reaction. Donald Trump is informed of the world events by the CIA reports, the Pentagon, NSA, and many other organisms at least twice a day. And about the Venezuela topic, it's a focal point for them. Is an obsession for Donald Trump that he reviews every morning. He gives information, he reads information and sends orders against Venezuela. And at night he has another report. So it's impossible that 48 hours after the United States had not said a word about the mercenary attack directed by them, by the Americans, against Venezuela. It's impossible. Donald Trump's reaction is totally incredible and nervous. That begins a string of answers that have been strangely late. The United States speaks about anything of Venezuela minutes after it happens. And a world event such of this magnitude, they wait until Tuesday in the morning when he simulated a casual meeting with the press to say something with the situation that had happened. This is impossible that he did not know. The Argentinian politics analyzer said Trump is testing an invasion on Venezuela, and I read the conclusion. He says these operations are hot air balloons in the United States to measure how fast and effective the answer of Venezuela would be. Do you agree? And another question: what are you doing to stop any new attempt? Well, first of all, I think they have tried everything. They tried to assassinate me on August 4, 2018, authorized and ordered by Donald Trump. The story will put everything in its place in its due moment once the documents are declassified. This will be proven. They have also tried a coup d'etat that tragically ended on April 30th last year. Economic sanctions, offering money for whoever takes my head. And this covert operation. This has all of the aspects of a covert operation. So through this group, they could try to attack and fill of violence in our country. They have even gone to the extreme of thinking that they could come into the country and that nothing would happen. And our country has a defensive system of a civic and military and police that is called the Bolivarian Shield, and it's ongoing 24 hours a day. So if it wasn't the commission that saw them in the Bay of Macuto in the first invasion and totally neutralized them, it was going to be another one. Our country is ready to combat. That's what they don't want to understand in Washington. Our country is ready to combat. Our country is ready to combat. Our armed forces are ready to combat. We want peace, but we have a complete vigilance system of intelligence, counterintelligence, world collaboration of important world forces, of elements in the world, including people from Washington, from Bogota, that they don't want war in Venezuela. They want no violence. So a covert operation, like it will be proven, that is ordered by Donald Trump personally, that was subcontract to Silvercup. This is a Florida company that is very much used by President Trump and Vice President Pence for security operations within the United States, that was supervised in Colombia by Ivan Duque, and that had a contract that, well, now everybody knows this contract was signed by Mr. Juan Guaido and JJ Rendon and Jordan Grutzman, that established all of the conditions for the payment of over $200,000 to train the mercenaries, and the objectives that were set. And the main one was the assassination of President Maduro. Now, what can we do to avoid a new event? It's more intelligence, more counterintelligence, more defensive systems, and hopefully, in the public opinion of the of North American people, there will rise some voices that will stop Donald Trump in his obsession, in his cruelty to try to, and his attempt to harm the people of Venezuela. Let's hope for that. Do you think you're going to extradite these people? Because the Secretary of State of the United States, Mike Pompeo, has said that they will do everything in his hand to bring them back home. Well, they have accepted their faults. They are convicts. They have confessed, and now they are in a trial before the tribunals of Venezuela. You have been able to see parts of their testimonies that these two mercenaries have given, these American soldiers. They are very much impressed, I can tell you. They are very much impressed of the good treatment they've received in Venezuela, because they thought that people were going to go and applaud them, and they have confessed, the police in Venezuela, that they have been impressed in the town where they were captured. They were very impressed to see the people that were working with the militaries, and the military were well armed. They were impressed by the structure of the place where they're detained. Well, they're confronted with the reality of Venezuela, and they have realized how the story they had in their head was totally wrong. And they thought that they were going to be received as heroes, and that they were going to be accompanied by the hundreds. And this is a country that has its weakness, and it has its strengths, and it has its institutions. And of course, they are under trial, and let's hope that there will be justice in this case of this armed incursion on behalf of mercenaries that tried to assassinate myself and authorities of the military ranks and civil ranks. And what they wanted to do is a bloodbath in Venezuela. Well, what we're demanding is justice. President Trump has just announced his intention of appointing what he calls a full mission diplomat in Venezuela. He would be James Brownward, that as of the moment he's a commercial diplomat in Colombia. Well, this man, he was the last commercial diplomat in Venezuela. We had to throw him out. He has an office in Bogota, Colombia, and I can tell you, and this will be proven through the declassified documents, that this man is responsible for the failure of this armed incursion that was military defeated in the Bay of Macuto. James Story has his feet and his hands and all of his body in this military incursion. What is Mike Pompeo doing? And Donald Trump, once again, they are giving a prize to the person who failed, because James Story, Elliot Abrams, and Mike Pompeo are responsible for this failure in the Bay of Macuto. And what Trump is doing is to give him an award, to give them prizes. This will be revealed. In the particular case of Colombia, where repeatedly there is a relationship of the training of these mercenaries on Colombian soil, to what extent does President Duque and Álvaro Uribe, who some say is the real president of Colombia, how much are they involved, and why is there an interest of Colombia to get into another house? Well, you know that Colombia has been trying for 200 years to lay their hands on the political and economic wealth of Venezuela. The last century, they had a large amount of control of the oligarchy in Venezuela. In the last 40 years, ever since 1958 to 1998, there was a high level of control, of influence, manipulation of all of the presidents that came in to Venezuela. Now, their interest is to have the control of Venezuela, of our richness, of our resources, gold, oil, natural gas, and the routes to use for drug trafficking. The Colombian oligarchy, and above all, the governing sector, is linked to drug trafficking in a genetic way. Álvaro Uribe Vélez, how many files does he have worldwide of drug trafficking? Ivan Duque has 4 or 5 scandals right now in Bogota, due to his links with drug trafficking people and people who paid for all of his charges, even those who financed his presidential campaign. There is a direct link of Duque in this incursion. If they let the chief of the intelligence of Colombia speak, we could know everything, and how they've protected the training camps, of how they've provided logistics, communication, transportation, and how they were vigilant of this incursion. March 2nd, this last one, the president of Colombia was asked to come to the United States. If the independent journalists could have access to these conversations, you could see that 80% of the time they spoke about Venezuela. And Donald Trump asked for details of this incursion, how many men. And Ivan Duque lied to Donald Trump. Ivan Duque said that there were over 300 men, they were well armed, and they were in contact and had military, police support and civilian support in Venezuela, and that they were going to do it very soon. And the words that Donald Trump used were very harsh on Ivan Duque. We get all of this information of many intelligence sources. We get fresh news. I could even tell you, Jorge, many of these things, I said them before on March 3rd and 4th. Our minister, Jorge Rodriguez, denounced the camps, the training camps. He gave direct reference on GPS, the coordinates, where the camps were located, how were they moving. Then there was the scandal of the weapons that were discovered. And then Cliver Alcalá Cordones said that there was a contract signed by Juan Guaido. We said all of this before. We said it during, before, and after. And Donald Trump forced this attack, and Ivan Duque was also forced by Donald Trump to send this group to see if they were able to kill me and to unleash the violence. And this is what the Americans have declared. But I am a practicing Christian, and I only thank him for maintaining me alive and victorious. That is the truth about Iván Duque and Colombia. In this moment, is there any dialogue between Venezuela and the United States? Well, right now, no. There has always been dialogue. Or I think more than dialogue, there have been communications going back and forth. After May 3rd, everything was cut. They don't answer any WhatsApp. They don't answer phones. They're in mute. We have used 3 different ways that we have with 3 different authorities of the Trump government. We have sent messages and total mute. They just pressed the mute button. Total silence. We're at 6 months to the presidential elections here in the United States, and it is known that there are going to be 2 candidates, Joe Biden, the former vice president of Obama, and Donald Trump. How do you anticipate that the future might be with the United States if Trump is reelected or if Joe Biden becomes president? Well, right now we don't know who is going to win. We're in the midst of a pandemic. Everybody is shocked by this. The United States is the epicenter of coronavirus in the world. Every day they count by the hundreds and by the thousands the people that are infected. It's hard nowadays to ask you to answer this question. What I can tell you is that we are prepared for whatever comes. If Trump or Biden wins, Venezuela depends on their own efforts. We will walk with our own feet. We will build with our own hands. And we will conduce ourselves with our own thoughts. In case of the former Vice President Biden, in an interview that he gave in Florida, he was asked, how could the relation with Venezuela be? And he said that sanctions, I'm sure that we will continue with the sanctions. What is not acceptable is not to recognize Venezuela as a government, as a state. If that was the case, and the words were true, could this mean an important shift in what the relations are with the ones we have now? Well, we are preparing for the worst, because the U.S. empire has a vision, and what they want to do is try to overcome the government of the project that has resurrected of our Comandante Chavez. They have an objective to dominate and control the United States and the Caribbean, and for that, they need to destroy the Bolivarian Revolution. They say that some is blue or red. At the end of the day, it's an imperialist vision. So now, I just said it yesterday. I was giving some advice to Mike Pompeo. Think if you have the capacity to do so. Leave the arrogance aside. Recognize who we are, our strength, that we're real. I'm like this wood. We are real. We're millions. We have experience. We have a project, a legacy. We have the unity of the civilians, militaries, and police. They've not able to do anything, do away with us. And Juan Guaido has not been able to do anything. They will have to recognize at one point that they failed in the way to impose a puppet president in Venezuela. They couldn't do it. They failed. Guaido is a robber who is linked to drug trafficking. He's a criminal who's able to sign a contract to kill his political contender. Who does that in politics? To sign a contract to hire a mercenary to kill his opponent. That is done only by a criminal. He did that. He signed, he prepared my assassination. Juan Guaido. Well, it's a failure. Somebody will have to recognize it. Biden, Pompeo, Trump, somebody in the upcoming months, they will have to recognize that they failed. We spoke when we began this conversation about the coronavirus, this pandemic that is affecting the world. And how do you find that hard balance between asking people to stay at home so they will not be infected, and that people want to go out to work because they need to eat, and so they need money? Well, it's not easy. We have been able to do it using several tools. I have said that between quarantine and production, there is no contradiction. So we have been able to maintain the motors up running with very strict security measures. We have not had a single case of coronavirus among workers and entrepreneurs of more than 2,300 companies that are working normally, even the ones of agriculture, pharmaceuticals, etc., food processing. We have adopted measures. Well, you know, we have been looking after 7,000 homes. We take the food to their houses. It's subsidized, almost free. This is called CLAP, Local Committees of Production and Distributions. These are 7,000 houses. These we deliver food. We teach through different mediums, TV, internet, and we have left the children at home receiving their classes and doing their homework. We have the visit house by house because we have 1,300 medical teams, and these 13,000 are visiting door to door. So we have something that's called the ID of homes, where people are registered. We are 30 million inhabitants, like over 20 million adults, and registered under this ID, there are 19 millions, and the 6 million families, women, receive a subsidy direct that is called the bonus of the nation. That is, they receive it twice a month. So we have been able to have a quarantine. It's voluntarily. It's totally disciplined. That is supported by the government, by all of the institutions, in this unity between the civilians, military, and police. Up until now, we have 381 coronavirus cases. 381. We have been able to control coronavirus. Now we're breaking the chains of infection, and we have 10 people dead. We have done a great feat. We have an average of 16,000 tests per million inhabitants. This is the highest one in Latin America and the Caribbean. We have dedicated a lot of time and discipline into this. So that's why I say every time you touch wood, think of us. We're real. United States, Washington, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, Pentagon, CIA, we, the Bolivarians, we, the Chavistas, we're real. Only we can govern and maintain the stability in this country. That's it. I humbly say it. Mr. President, what do you answer to those who say that President Maduro is responsible for the severe crisis of the country and the fleeing of millions of Venezuelans in this reality? Well, everybody is aware that Venezuela has undergone 3 years of sanctions, illegal sanctions to its economy. Everybody is aware that the United States froze our accounts for $30 billion, which is a lot of money for us. They stole from us in the United States and Europe. They took our company, Citgo, in the United States. Everybody's aware that the Treasury of the United States is following every airplane or boat that is coming into Venezuela to give us supplies and food. They go after the boats that bring gasoline. They're blocking us totally. And with that and everything, we have resisted. We keep the jobs to everybody. We keep health, education, nutrition, and we keep on building houses, confronting everything, what is so-called the economic war. It's a brutal war. And we have been able to keep our route to display economic development. About migration, we are living a never-seen-before phenomenon. We have more than 25,000 Venezuelans have returned, and we are expecting more than 50,000. The number of migrants has always been exaggerated by the government of the United States and the government of Colombia to try to impose the scenario of humanitarian disaster. We think that in 4 or 5 years, after the sanctions that have been imposed, maybe 1 million Venezuelans have been able to leave. And that's too much, maybe 600,000 to 1 million. Now we're seeing that it could have been less. Now they're coming back, fleeing from the coronavirus in Colombia, from the corona hunger in Ecuador, Peru, Chile. I have disposed 24 airplanes, modern airplanes that we have of Confianza, and they're flying all of these Venezuelans back that are victims of coronavirus and discrimination. You definitely have your plate full with many serious topics. For example, this dialogue or the violence with the opposition. We speak of the brutal fall of the prices of the oil and the fall of the acquisition power of your currency. Which one of these problems is the one that most concerns you? Well, I think the most concerning problem is the development of the economic motors in Venezuela to produce medicine, to produce food, to produce everything that the people need to satisfy their needs, produce public service. Everything else will fall into place. The price of oil, well, we'll be able to overcome the situation, and there will be better days. This attack on the currency that has been brutal in the last 4 days, and the last 4 years, we will be able to contain it to go to a next stage. In the particular case of the international situation, how do you see the future in terms of the relationship with OPEC? Well, the relation with OPEC, you know, that has been consolidating itself in the past years. In OPEC, we've been able to articulate a new alliance, which is what we call OPEC Plus, which is OPEC plus the oil producers like Russia and other countries beyond OPEC. This allowed that in the year 2016, December to be exact an agreement that lasted up until our days, up until now. And it stabilized the markets, and it balanced the market. 2016, 18, and 19. And this brought balance to the financial world. That OPEC Plus agreement, I have said, is the backbone of the financial balance of the world. Now, with this pandemic, the whole world was paralyzed, and the prices decreased brutally because nobody is using oil right now, and there is an oversaturation of oil. So now that made the prices plunge. The US barrel went down to minus 20 for the first time in all of history. The prices went down so much. Well, now, after new negotiations, we have a new agreement that went into place in May 1st to withdraw many barrels from the world. 10 million barrels from the agreement, OPEC plus, OPEC Russia, and 5 million barrels from G20 countries. Now in May, the price is slowly increasing. It's a very slow increase. Let's see how this evolves. We are part of the monitoring committee of OPEC Plus. In the upcoming days, there will be a meeting of all of our ministers, a video conference to see the perspectives and to see if it's necessary to take new measures. So what I can tell you is that the OPEC Plus is ongoing. The monitoring committee is vigilant to see what's going on in the whole world. Please tell us and explain for an audience that is seeing this interview beyond borders, what is your reaction to what JJ Rendon is doing, and who is he, and what is his relation with Guaido? Well, JJ Rendon, he's a bandit. I don't know how to say that in English. Well, he's a bandit. He's got a superiority complexity. He thinks he's far more intelligent than the rest. He's a political advisor to drug traffickers, to the extreme right politicians like Uribe or Mr. Hernandez of Honduras, among others. He has made a fortune by stealing. He has very big apartments in Miami. He could not withstand an independent investigation. In Venezuela, he's under Code Red for sexual abuse, violation. Now, this is one of the main advisors to Juan Guaido. And he has just admitted yesterday in CNN, your former employer, that he did sign a contract to invade Venezuela and to kill me, and that he signed it. Another advisor called Sergio Vergara, Jordan Godrup, and that this is the official document that is signed. Has the signature of Juan Guaido. Why did he do this? Because he can't deny if he is taken to court, and he can't deny that he participated. And Jordan Mordeau would take away all of his money and all of the apartments he has in the United States. That is why he comes out and reveals, and he said that Guaido didn't sign. But it's evident that he is there because the signature is there. So what we're seeing is a total shadow of what the opposition of Venezuela used to be, when they're hiring these type of people and they give them power to work on their behalf. This is the reality. This is what we have. And finally, Mr. President, how do you see the world post-pandemic how do you think that the multipolarity of the world will be affected? Well, I think that there is a new world that is rising. I think that the world post-pandemic will be totally different. And that is why Trump is trying to play in advance. He wants to attack China. This is like a sense of a new Cold War. Don't forget that 75 years ago, having finished the so-called Second World War, this is 75 years ago, having the Red Army, this victory, Russia emerged as a great power, and the United States launched an attack, and there was the MacArthur's, and divided the world in two poles to try to overcome as the leading power. Now, something similar is happening in different conditions. The United States has begun an early attack on China because China is the great power economically, politically, military, and now also is the power that supplies the world with medicines against this threat of the coronavirus. So a new world is arising where there's going to be more balance, just like Simón Bolívar said, a world of balance, a new world. We have always believed in the arising of a new world. It is possible. A new world is necessary. A world without empires, without wars, where we can share, where we can distribute the richness. A world of cooperation. That is the world that today millions of human beings that are stuck in their homes during the quarantine aspire. A world of cooperation, of dialogue, of respect, of permanent cooperation, a world where nature is respected, where we do try to avoid climate change. I think that if the pandemic will leave us something positive, will be the reflections for this new phase of humanity, and we bet everything to this new world. Well, on a personal level, Mr. President, could you ever think that once you took office, you would have to confront all of these problems from all of these fronts? Well, Chavez prepared us to protect our country in all fronts. The fronts that are opening up are new, and it's been very demanding. We have had to prepare ourselves and study and think our strategies to join efforts, to gather scientific fields, economic field, health field. So Venezuela has proven that we're up to the task. And if we can, everybody can. If we've been able to resist and to battle and succeed, and if Venezuela can do it, all of the other governments of the world can do it too. Yes, we can. Listen. Mr. President Nicolas Maduro, thank you very much for being with us. Thank you very much, Jorge. I hope to be soon in Washington. Thank you very much once again. Thank you.